What's up? It's EJ Spark. I hope you are having an amazing New Music Friday, and today I have a great music review for you. Today, JID finally dropped The Forever Story. And of course, I think he is extremely underappreciated, so that's why I had to give this album a review. I think JID is really known for that quick fire, high energy flow and delivery. So naturally, I went into this album looking for that high energy. You know, the album starts off with Galaxy, and this is a less than a minute intro, but it's very smooth, and you have some great harmonies on it to kick the album off. And at the end of this intro, you have a sample of a man leaving a voice message or on a phone or something, complaining that he doesn't pick up the phone, and he calls JID or whoever is on the other line extremely fake. I think this is very interesting for the start of the album because obviously in the music industry, you know, there are a lot of fake people out there. And I just think it's a nod to the music industry having these fake figures in it. Not calling JID fake, but just having that metaphor in there to kick off the album. The project then turns into a song called Raydar, and this song is exactly what you think a JID song would sound like, right? Like if you looked up JID type beat on YouTube, this is the song you're getting. This song is a mixture of introspective and conscious lyrics, and you know, you have this banger, dirty 808 drums that is perfect for JID. This song is actually exactly what I expected for the first track on the album, and I really like that there's an NFL ref in the hook being sampled. I think it's a great touch. And the album goes into Dance Now, which we've already talked about a lot. I really enjoyed that song, and it goes into Crack Sandwich. Now, Crack Sandwich, production-wise, has this very eerie beat, right? You have this eerie piano and an old school drum loop on it. This is honestly one of my favorite productions throughout the whole album. And throughout this song, JID talks about, you know, getting into fights at parties and clubs and whatnot. But listening to this song, you know, you have 3 verses, and I really do enjoy that JID does 3 verses because I think 3 verses in hip hop is something that the genre has been missing for a while now. But his storytelling can definitely be all over the place, right? I think JID is a great storyteller and has one of the best flows and deliveries in the game, but when he mixes, you know, the braggadocious rap and telling multiple different stories within the same song, lyrically, it becomes a little bit perplexing. However, it also makes it feel as if he's writing in a more of a free style. Obviously not off the top of the dome, but he's writing free of style, and I think artistically, it's a really fun way to write. And I think a lot of his tracks are like that, especially on previous albums. Also, when you have bars like "I'm an artiste with a gun, I can give my world peace," I mean, that just shows how good his wordplay is anyway. Then we go into Can't Punk Me featuring EARTHGANG. This definitely has a funkier bass line and a really smooth drum line, which goes along perfectly with JID and EARTHGANG's flows. This is a song that just feels really well crafted. I really like JID on these funkier productions, and we do get a couple of these throughout the album, but I would definitely like to hear like a full funk album from JID. Then we go into Surround Sound with 21 Savage, where I have talked about that before. I did think that 21 Savage put on a great performance on that track, but let's talk about Kody Blu 31. I think this was a standout track, very soulful with great background harmonies. Really gives some great layers and dimensions to the production, but the special thing about this particular song is JID shows off those pipes. His vocals were honestly incredible. I cannot believe that JID hasn't showed off his voice like this before. I mean, we've known that he has a good voice, right? But like, this is great. This man can honestly make a full R&B or soul album or whatever because he has a really great voice. Lyrically, I also thoroughly enjoy songs that tell you to get back up when things are hard, right? Which is really what this song is about, but those vocals really take the cake on this track. But I think the strings in this song are also going to go underappreciated. They bring a flavorful layer on top of these drums and a beautiful bass line. We then get into Bruddanem featuring Lil Durk, and again, JID shows off those smooth vocals with some great strings and bass in the production. And I think JID's producers make great use of bass on this album and in JID songs in general, but especially on this album. I think the bass stood out so much, especially to me, someone that has played bass instruments growing up. And unfortunately, it goes unnoticed, but I think bass lovers will recognize how truly great the bass lines and bass in general in the production on this album really is. And in this song specifically, you know, he talks about how he got beat as a kid for things that he never did. And throughout this album, more than I've ever heard, you can really hear in detail, specific detail, the struggles JID went through growing up. As far as the Lil Durk verse, honestly, I don't know if he belonged on this song specifically. I don't think he had a bad performance, but I just don't think that he fit well on this specific track. I just don't think the production and Lil Durk meshed well. I think if you had Lil Durk to maybe like Crack Sandwich or something like that, could have been a hell of a feature. And then of course we have Bruddanem, so we have to have Sistanem, right? I think this is another standout track on this album. Maybe not in terms of production. I think the beat is middle of the road compared to other beats on this album, but it is atmospheric enough for JID to do his thing lyrically. The hook with James Blake and Yuli is beautifully done, definitely a passionate performance. And I'm assuming on this track, he's talking about somebody in his life where his relationship with them was definitely ruined by maybe some family drama, which sucks, right? But it is a raw and real moment here that people can relate to, right? You know, you have some family drama, family doesn't talk to each other, but at the end of the day, like Ye says, it's family business. So it sucks if things can never be mended within the family, but unfortunately it does happen. The next song we move into is Can't Make You Change featuring Lennox. I like the theme of this song. JID and Ari talk about, you know, how we're selfish people, we could be really stuck in our ways and stubborn, and, you know, we're trying to rush things, which obviously that's not what life is about. But overall, I think this song is a little dull relative to the rest of the project. I don't really think it has anything to do with JID or Ari's performances, you know, and it does have a bouncy bass line. I just think the overall composition of the song really doesn't live up to the standard of the rest of the tracks on this project. But then we move into Stars featuring Yasiin Bey. This song I was kind of split about. You know, I really liked it, but there were a couple things that I didn't like as much. For example, the way this song is mixed in the first verse with JID's vocals being pitched up and being pitched down as he raps is something I'm not the biggest fan of in a verse. I like the experimental aspect of it, but I would just rather it be your regular voice. However, I do love the theme of this song. You know, as an artist myself, I love that he says that he is sensitive about his shit, you know, because we all are, of course, even though we might not show it. You know, he tells his girl, like, have faith in someone without a job and play the music for your friends when I drop a mixtape. Just give us artists a chance, you know, because we do work so hard. And that's just something as an artist I can relate to, and I know any other artist can relate to this song, especially that first verse as well. He also asks if you're in it for the art or the image. And as I was saying before, in the music industry, there are a lot of fake people. Obviously, there are a lot of fake people everywhere, but especially in the music industry. Like, are you really in it for the art, the love of the game, or are you just in it for the image? And I guess if you're just in it for the image, that's fine too. But there are people out there that really put every ounce of sweat and their whole soul into their work. I think the second verse was much better than the first. The way the bass and the flow switches up is very tasteful, and Yasiin Bey also gives us a nice old school performance. You know, he's still got it with some nice internal rhymes in there. Then we move on to the Lil Wayne and Kenny Mason feature with Just in Time. I think Lil Wayne has been on a tear with these features in the past year or two. But as far as the production and the song itself, I think it's definitely middle of the road relative to the rest of the album. The hook doesn't really do much for me. The production really doesn't do much for me. And the Wayne feature is good, but lyrically, I've just heard a lot better from him. Then we go into Money, and this is actually a surprise song that I thoroughly enjoyed. It's a really funky, soulful beat, and you have kids singing on the hook saying they want money, and what kid doesn't want money? I actually think this is a fun song with some really good production. You know, I enjoy that he has kids singing, the harmonies in the background, it brings a really good flavor to this song, and I feel like this track would sound really, really well live. It's a really well put together song. It's got some really great drums. It's got some good energy to it. Then we move into the final two songs where you have Better Days and Lauder Too, right? I think Better Days is another standout track with a great melodic, strong hook with a strong bass line and great storytelling about Jid's past, right? We do hear this a lot, but it makes you realize or feel like that Jid has lived basically a million lives, and he truly has a lot to tell. And it's songs like this where you really want to sit down and read along with the lyrics, and you just get the sense that Jid is a really wise rapper while listening to that track. But the final track is Lauder Too, featuring Ravyn Lenae. I've never heard her before, but this song definitely makes me want to look her up. This is an interesting note to end this album on. It's for sure a more experimental album. I do enjoy the beat. It has a really quick tapping bass line, right? And it's really cool to listen to. I also like Ravyn's hook a lot. I think her voice is infectious and the melody is very emotional, which makes it pretty catchy as well. And after everything the song gives, right, it ends up being about love, which I think is a great ending to the album. You know, this track sounds angry, right? The bass line sounds angry. The delivery that Jid gives us throughout the first couple verses is, you know, that high energy that I was talking about before, but it really ends on this note about love. And I like that he says, you know, give a brother a hug, not a slug. And I do think it's cool that he ends the album on such more of a positive note. I really didn't expect the track to go that way when I first heard it. I was a little skeptical about the track at first, but when it ended that way, I was very happily surprised. Overall, I actually do think this is Jid's best album to date. I think he took some safe and experimental routes with this project. I think it had more stability lyrically than some of the other projects that he has. I think the production on this thing was fantastic. The bass, like I said, stood out more than anything in terms of the production. He had bangers, introspective tracks, definitely some conscious lyrics in there. A really diverse track list that's still strung together really well. And again, I think this album shows off how wise Jid really is and can be at rapping. So I'm going to give this album an 8.1 out of 10, but what are your thoughts on this album? I would love to hear your overall thoughts in the comments below. Did you love it as much as I did? Did you not like it so much? Let me know. Thank you so much for coming by. Greatly appreciate it. If you like the video, hit a like and subscribe to the channel if you like making music, talking music, and listening to music just as much as I do. Follow me on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram at EJSpark1, and as always, you know what it is. It's peace, love, I love s'mores, EJ. Ow.